Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the program. Thank you for joining me. Today is January 14th, 2020. Before we get into the article, I want to talk briefly about the John McAfee interview episode. The first thing was obviously I didn't know he was going to abruptly end the interview, but also I knew that I knew his situation. He's not exactly stable right now in terms of his living situation and where he's going to go. So I was prepared for something to happen. It always is. Anybody who interviews them, there will always be a chance of the interview ending at any moment. Luckily, later on, I found out that it wasn't anything too serious. But, the guy has armed guards on him 24/7. He has body doubles. So he's got a lot going on. So I was thankful for the time that I had with him. The second thing I'll say about that is it does seem pretty like a random person to interview. But I got set up with the person, not him exactly, but the person who set up the interview, someone close to him. I just thought it would be very interesting. A guy of he's 74 years old. He's led a very interesting life. I wanted to pick his brain more on the archaeological, geological, and the human culture side of things. And things were kind of going in a tangent, but I think we were getting somewhere, especially with consciousness and stuff. But anyway, I've got a lot of great positive feedback from the interview. Again, I've got a lot of suggestions for who to have. I want to have Bruce Fenton on, and I want to pick his brain about the out of Australia theory and some of the new evidence that's come out in support, and also some that may contradict his dates, and I want to pin him down on that too. But yeah, if you guys end up leaving comments, if you're a regular on the channel, go ahead and leave some suggestions in the comments. And hey, who knows? It might happen if you just shout out to the person, even if it's another content creator along these same lines. So anyway, the episode today is about this DNA that they extracted from ancient chewing gum. I did an episode on ancient chewing gum probably 2018, like right when I was starting out, like at the end of well over a year ago. And again, there were similar things where they knew that this belonged to a human, because what other animal really chews gum and goes out there and chews gum, which is in reality just a type of I think tree wax or a tar, more like a tar, like that type of substance. And they were being used for multiple reasons, either medicinal, treating migraines or toothaches or something like that, for fun, or as an adhesive to put stuff together. But anyway, the first time that DNA has been extracted from something like gum happened, and they even recreated what her face would look like. Now, this seems like a pretty wacky photo. Obviously, it's CGI, and there's a lot of imagination here. But this picture again is just to show the phenotypes of the genetics that code for these features. Obviously, she probably didn't look exactly like this. And if you're really skeptical, then you might think this is just all a psyop. This is just an image conjured up by the higher ups to develop this narrative. What narrative it is, I don't really know. But yeah, I'm just here trying to report this because I thought it was an interesting article, and which, by the way, comes out of BBC. So this is an artist reconstruction who's been nicknamed Lola. They found her remains in Denmark 6,000 years ago. So about 4,000, about near the early Neolithic, before the Bronze Age, Europe. So this is a very interesting time of transition. I got a couple of maps to show you guys in a bit. They sequenced her DNA. They deciphered her genetic code, and she had dark skin, dark brown hair, and blue eyes in Denmark. Okay, which is a place, which is Scandinavia, and is known to have people with blonde hair, blue eyes, and stuff like that. The stereotype. And again, before I even continue, yeah, it's not completely blonde hair, blue eyes people there, obviously, even in the ancient time. So yeah, they could have just found someone who happened to have dark features, obviously. But if you look at the genetic map, it's still pretty interesting how the map and all the research before this discovery is being exonerated, so to speak. So the chewing gum is actually tar from a tree, a very valuable source of ancient DNA. And it's great because there are vast swaths of time where there are no human remains that we can find. And so this is a great proxy to fill in those gaps. And allegedly it's just as reliable because, I mean, they're sequencing an entire genome and it makes sense. And think about today, if you're skeptical about getting genetics from your spit, I mean, we have 23andMe, we have Ancestry, we have all these services, these lab services where that you just swab your cheek and you submit it. Now, a lot of people will question that. They'll think that's a crazy thing to do. I've never done it, but that is how they do it. That's how they get your genetic information, is through mouth swabbing and other bodily fluids, I'm sure. So here's what we know about her. We, meaning the scientific community who discovered her. Her entire genetic code was decoded and used to work out what she might have looked like. She was genetically more closely related to hunter-gatherers from mainland Europe than to those who lived in central Scandinavia. Okay, so if we look at the map here, this is 6,000, 5,000 BC, early Neolithic Europe. So this is about 1,000 years before she was found. And then this map is Neolithic expansion, which is a little bit later. So as you can see, these are different Neolithic cultures based on their Y DNA haplogroup. You can see the famous R1b coming out of Turkey here, which people say are the descendants of Troy. That's a legend. The fall of Troy. After the fall of Troy, there are survivors who left. According to legend, they founded the Roman Empire, but although that could be Roman propaganda to connect themselves with the Trojans. But it is no doubt about it that the R1b did survive, and there's a ton of people with it now in Europe. So this is about 1,000 years before Our Lady, what's her name, Lola? Is that what her name was? Yeah, Lola. This is right before Lola's time. And then if we look at this map, this is the R1b, again, this red. This is 4,300 BC. Invasion of people of the black and gray pottery. And again, this is all mainstream science. This is a mainstream view where before they brought pottery and agriculture and stuff, they were all just hunter-gatherers. That's what they think. Never mind that Doggerland was there. Never mind that there, where my cursor is, if you guys can see. There were people living here. There were battles fought. There were weapons. So maybe her existence, her phenotypes were expressed by the people of Doggerland as well. But that's another video. If you guys want to hear more about Doggerland, I have a video that I did about 4 or 5 months ago on it. You guys can definitely check it out. So yeah, she's genetically more closely related to these hunter-gatherers, allegedly, than those who live in central Scandinavia. She likely descended from a population of settlers that moved up from Western Europe after the glaciers retreated. So this is Western Europe, obviously, where you see the Tardenoisian culture here, this blue culture that you see. She probably moved up because all of this was under a glacier about 10,000 or so years ago. So when that started retreating and the Doggerland started disappearing, the English Channel started coming out, people started moving up just naturally. That's what happened. That's also what happened in America as well. How she lived, she was eating hazelnuts and mallard duck, which were basically the DNA signatures found in the tar gum, whatever you want to call it. There is also clues about Siltholm on Lolland, which is an island of Denmark in the Baltic Sea. I don't think it comes up. I think this is it right here. So they found that. they also found that it's the biggest Stone Age site in Denmark, and the archaeological finds suggest that people who occupied the site were heavily exploiting wild resources well into the Neolithic. So again, they're supposed to have been. This is supposed to be a transitionary period between hunter-gatherers, which most of Europe was supposedly all hunter-gatherers, but they're exploiting wild resources, and they've done so for a while. There's no indicator where they just suddenly picked it up. So it's very interesting that was it intuition? How do they know which resources to exploit? If this is usually when there's a transitionary period from one system to another, there's usually some difficulty, some sort of struggle. How do they know exactly what to find unless they were instructed or had some sort of cultural base in this knowledge? But there's no indications of that. It just seems like this is what they were eating, and there's no real context other than what we've already built in the timeline. So again, this is the period when farming and domesticated animals were first introduced into southern Scandinavia, and then they were suddenly just masters of it. Never mind the fact that these skills most likely require generations and generations of expertise and knowledge base, but a lot of people don't really talk about that. And I just want to clear something up. In academia especially, that type of stuff, that kind of contextual stuff is worth following, but then they'll never allude to it unless there's absolutely, according to them, smoking gun evidence. And even then they might reject it. The person who is presiding has to die or something like that, and then only then can science and our knowledge base really advance and be accepted. But I think those days are probably going to be over soon, just because of the internet, how fast information goes. People want to call them pseudo-archaeologists and pseudo-scientists, but really a lot of them now are just alternative views. And it's really up to us. This is just as an aside. I feel like as learned individuals now, especially if you've been following everything for years, you start to see patterns, and you start to become well informed enough to make your own conclusions. And really, it's up to the individual now to discern what's true and what's not, and based on their own trial and error experience, their own reading, their own reflection on the data. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that the just these laymen should decide where things go, but I think after you've read a lot of the literature and seen a lot of the data, it becomes self-apparent, I think. Anyway, so the researchers extracted DNA from microbes trapped in the chewing gum. They found pathogens that cause glandular fever and pneumonia, and other viruses and bacteria naturally present in the mouth, but don't cause disease. Even though they said pathogens that cause fever and pneumonia, this supports the theory that these people, because there's no real processed food like there is now. Although there was some bread, I don't know exactly the extent of the regions that they had bread and they were baking stuff. I know they were doing it in Turkey and Çatalhöyük. They were doing that. But I'm pretty sure it eventually spread. But at this moment in time, I'm not sure if they had it. But other than that, they're very resilient people. Once they hit maturity, obviously the infant mortality rate was high, and it was hard to get past early childhood. But once they did, they had tremendously strong immune systems in the area until the New World, and then all this other stuff, the smallpox and stuff like that. But that's way later. This is a piece of the 5,700-year-old birch pitch. So this is, again, right at the brink of Bronze Age Europe almost. This is 3,700 BC. Bronze Age Europe is usually around 3,300, 3,200 BC. So this is half a millennia there. So it's very interesting stuff. Where did the DNA come from? The DNA was stuck in a black-brown lump of birch pitch produced by heating birch bark, which was used at the time to glue together stone tools. So it was probably a maintenance thing. They were just trying to get their tools together. It could be soothing ailments, like I mentioned before. So this discovery offers a snapshot of people's lives, providing information on ancestry, livelihood, and health. People were healthier than we think back then. They were smarter than we think back then, and they had a pretty good livelihood. Even in a place like friggin' Denmark, which is, even back then, was cold as hell. So the chewing gum gives us an insight in how the pathogens you've had evolved over the years as well. So not only are we getting a human perspective, we're also seeing how humans were interacting, or how the bacteria within humans were interacting with each other, how they evolved, why they evolved, and all that information is totally relevant today. So this is great in all aspects of science, not just archaeology and microbiology, study of pathogens, all of these things, ecology. It's a very far-reaching discovery and a far-reaching study. So, quote, Dr. Schroeder tells the BBC, to be able to recover these types of ancient pathogen genomes from material like this is quite exciting because we can study how they evolved and how they are present, or how they are different to strains that are present nowadays. So yeah, we can, not we, but Dr. Schroeder and his colleagues and whoever else is in the field, they can cross-examine, they can take notes, they might find another piece of tar that might come up, and then they can compare with that one, see how it's different, see why it's different, and try to get to the bottom of again, elucidating the snapshot in history. Leave a comment if you guys think it's interesting, if this material challenged you in any way, if you thought this was useful, let me know in the comments. I'll probably have another episode up in a couple of days. I'm finally finishing the move, probably in a week and a half or so. I've been moving stuff little by little. You can't see, but there's like boxes everywhere. I just can't wait to get out of this place and have a more, just a better, the new place is just a lot more clean. It's a little bit smaller, but it's more tidy. And I mean, you guys know how it is. You have to sort through everything. You got to throw away, decide what you're going to throw away, decide what you're going to keep. And it's a lot more time consuming than you would initially think. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this, about Lola, about genetics, about the Bronze Age, about the Neolithic, about R1B, about any of the stuff that we covered. And I'll talk to you guys later.